I am staring at something I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. Italian lawmakers, standing in their regional council chamber, calling American immigration agents a militia that kills civilians. Not behind closed doors, not in some diplomatic whisper, out loud, on camera, to the world. And here's what terrifies me. They're not wrong. Look, I've spent the last 3 days reading through hundreds of comments from people all over the world about what is happening with ICE, from Italy to New Zealand to Canada to right here in Minneapolis where this nightmare started. And I need to tell you what I found, because the pattern that emerged, the thing nobody-s connecting, it changed how I understand what we rewatching unfold. This is my analysis. I could be wrong about some of this, but I don't think I am. And by the end of this, I think you are going to see why I am convinced we were watching something far more dangerous than just aggressive immigration enforcement. So let me start with what happened that made Italian politicians use the word militia. Because that word choice, that specific word, it matters more than you might think. The Milan Cortina Winter Olympics are happening next month, February 6th through 22nd. Standard protocol says the host country provides security. Italy has been doing this for decades. They know how to protect international events. But then the Trump administration announced they resending ICE agents, not Secret Service, not diplomatic security. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, to provide security for Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio at the opening ceremony. And Italy said no, not just no, hell no. The mayor of Milan publicly stated ICE is not welcome. The former Italian prime minister urged the government to block their involvement entirely. And here's the quote that stopped me cold. Italy's leftist Democratic Party said, "We don't want Donald Trump's thuggish squads here, people who kill civilian citizens." Now I know what some of you are thinking. Italy's being dramatic. They are overreacting. This is just standard international security cooperation. And I thought that too, for about 5 minutes. Until I started connecting the dots that nobody else seems to be connecting, because here's what happened in the 3 weeks before Italy made that statement. ICE agents in the United States killed 2 American citizens, not immigrants, not people here illegally, American citizens. Renee Good, a woman with 3 children, shot by an ICE agent who'd been with the agency for 10 years, and Alex Pretti, shot in the back multiple times, while trying to help a woman who'd been pushed down and tear-gassed. And the body cam footage, I've watched it. I wish I hadn't, but I have. It shows something that law enforcement experts are calling untrained, unprofessional, and chaotic. 7 ICE agents for one situation that local deputies handle with 3 people or less. A show of force that ended with an American citizen dead on the street. But here's where it gets disturbing. And I mean really disturbing. This isn't just happening in Minneapolis. ICE agents attempted to enter Ecuador's consulate in Minneapolis. Let me say that again. American immigration agents tried to force their way into the sovereign territory of another nation. On American soil, I have got the video, ICE agent at the door, consulate officials blocking him, and he says, "If you touch me, I will grab you. If you touch me, I will grab you," to diplomatic personnel, protecting their own citizens. On their own sovereign territory, Ecuador filed a formal protest with the U.S. Embassy. And here's what nobody is talking about. That ICE agent. Either he didn't know that a consulate is considered foreign soil, which means he is catastrophically untrained, or he knew and didn't care, which means he believes American immigration enforcement supersedes international law. Either option should terrify you. Now, let me tell you what I discovered in the comments that changed my entire understanding of this. About 40% of the international commenters brought up something I hadn't fully considered. They are not just watching what ICE is doing, they are watching how quickly it escalated. From immigration enforcement to what looks like a paramilitary force that operates outside normal legal constraints. One commenter from Germany wrote something that made my blood run cold. "We spent nearly 6 years fighting fascists. We don't need U.S. fascists on our streets in the present day." And here's why that hit me so hard. Germany knows what this looks like. Italy knows what this looks like. They've seen this movie before. They know how it ends, and they're rewarning us. But let me present the strongest counter-argument to my position, because I think it's important you hear it, and I genuinely wrestled with this. The case for allowing ICE at the Olympics goes like this. International security cooperation is standard practice. Multiple countries send protective details when their officials attend major events. ICE's Homeland Security Investigations Unit has expertise in vetting threats from transnational criminal organizations. Italy's own foreign minister said this is normal. When there is a major event, international police cooperation is necessary. That's a reasonable argument. I want to acknowledge that. And if this were just about standard security protocols, I might even agree with it. But here's why I still think Italy is right to refuse them. And here's why I think this is about something much bigger than just the Olympics. IC is not police. Let me say that again because it's crucial. IC is not a law enforcement agency in the traditional sense. They have a specific mission, immigration and customs enforcement. They not trained for diplomatic protection. They not trained for crowd control at international sporting events. They not trained for de-escalation in complex multinational environments. We know this because we've watched what happens when they operate in their own country. Shooting American citizens, trying to force entry into foreign consulates, operating in masks like they reconducting military raids. 7 agents for situations that require 3. Using tear gas on protesters, pushing women to the ground. This is what Italy sees. This is what Germany sees. This is what the entire world is watching, and they remaking a calculation. If ICE can to operate professionally in their own country, why would we trust them in ours? And here's the connection nobody is making. The thing that keeps me up at night. This isn't just about the Olympics. The United States is hosting the World Cup in just a few months. 52 matches, 16 cities, millions of international visitors, fans from every corner of the planet, coming to stadiums, airports, fan zones, cities across America, and ICE is already operating like an occupying force in American cities. Think about what that means. Picture a German soccer fan flying into Miami, wearing the wrong colors, speaking the wrong language, getting stopped by masked agents demanding papers. Picture a Mexican family coming to watch their national team play in their own neighboring country, getting detained at a fan zone because ICE is checking documentation. Picture the images that will circle the globe, not of athletic achievement, not of international unity, but of aggressive immigration raids near stadiums, near airports, with the whole world watching. Several commenters pointed out something I hadn't fully considered. France and Germany have already issued travel advisories for Minneapolis. Think about that. Our NATO allies, countries that have stood with us for 75 years, are warning their citizens that American cities are not safe, and I believe, and I could be wrong about this, but I believe this is exactly what Trump wants. I think the chaos is the point. I think the international outrage is the point. I think pushing our allies away is the point, because every country that protests, every mayor that says ICE isn't a welcome, every ally that issues a travel warning, it reinforces the narrative that the world is against America, that we need to be tougher, more aggressive, more isolated. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And we're watching it happen in real time. Now, let me tell you what really gets me about this. What makes me genuinely angry. Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, they have security. They are protected by the Secret Service, by diplomatic security services, by professionals who've been doing this job for decades. There is zero legitimate reason to send ICE agents to Italy, unless the point isn't actually security, unless the point is sending a message, unless the point is showing the world that American immigration enforcement goes wherever it wants, does whatever it wants, answers to no one. One commenter wrote that this is Trump building a personal militia. And at first I thought that was too extreme, too conspiracy-minded. But then I looked at the pattern. ICE agents protecting the vice president instead of the Secret Service. ICE agents trying to enter foreign consulates. ICE agents operating in masks, killing American citizens, facing no consequences. I am not saying Trump is building a literal private army, but I am saying he's building a force that's loyal to him personally, that operates outside normal legal constraints, that uses violence with impunity, and that's being deployed not just for immigration enforcement, but for political purposes. Maybe I'm wrong about the mechanism. Maybe it's just chaos and incompetence. But the pattern suggests something more deliberate, something more dangerous. And here's what nobody's talking about: the long-term damage to American credibility, to American power, to American influence. Italy isn't some enemy nation. Italy is a NATO ally, a G7 member, a founding member of the European Union, and they publicly calling American federal agents a militia that kills. That's not something you come back from easily. That's not something you fix with a phone call. That's a fundamental break in trust, and it's happening with ally after ally, country after country, friend after friend. One commenter from New Zealand wrote, "Boycott America completely. You Americans are weak," and that hurt to read because I think about what America used to represent, what we used to stand for, the ideals we claim to uphold, and then I watch masked ICE agents shooting citizens in the back, and I think maybe they rewrite. Maybe we are weak. Not because we lack military power, but because we resurrendering the very values that made us strong. Now let me tell you what I found in the comments that gave me hope. Because I need to be honest with you, this is dark, this is scary. But there's something happening that matters. Law enforcement officers, chiefs of police, sheriff's deputies, they rejoining the protests. They demanding ICE stop. They refusing to cooperate. One police chief said, "If it's happening to our officers, it pains me to think how many of our community members are falling victim to this every day. It has to stop." And that is significant because when the cops turn on IC, when the people who are supposed to enforce the law say this has gone too far, that's a line being crossed, that's a boundary being defended, multiple commenters pointed out something crucial. The cops know what the Constitution is. They know what right and wrong is. They know when people are being targeted. And they saying this is wrong. Even when it is happening to other cops, even when it is their own colleagues being stopped and harassed by federal agents, that gives me a sliver of hope. Not much, but some. Because if enough law enforcement refuse to cooperate, if enough cities terminate their agreements with ICE, if enough mayors say not in our town, it becomes harder. Not impossible, but harder. But here is what scares me, and I mean genuinely terrifies me. We 50 days into this administration. 50 days. And we've already got allied nations refusing to allow American federal agents on their soil. We've already got travel advisories from NATO allies. We've already got international protests. We've already got 2 dead American citizens. We've already got attempts to violate foreign sovereign territory. 50 days. What does year 1 look like? What does year 2 look like? What does year 4 look like? I made a prediction a few weeks ago, and I'm going to double down on it now. If ICE is allowed to operate at the Olympics in Italy, if they are allowed to operate at the World Cup in America, we will see an international incident. We will see violence. We will see images that circle the globe of American agents acting like an occupying force, and it will do permanent damage to America's standing in the world. I could be wrong. I hope I am wrong. But based on everything we've seen, based on the pattern of escalation, based on the complete lack of accountability, I don't think I am. And here's what you need to understand. This isn't just about immigration. This isn't just about border security. This is about whether America is a nation of laws or a nation of power. Whether we respect sovereignty or we impose our will. Whether we value human rights or we prioritize control. Every country is watching. Every ally is making calculations. Every friend is weighing whether they can trust us. And right now, based on what they are seeing, the answer is no. Italy is saying no. Germany is saying no. France is saying no. Ecuador is saying no. And countries that haven't said no yet, they rethinking about it. They rewatching Minneapolis. They rewatching ICE. They rewatching the chaos. And they remaking plans. One commenter from Scotland wrote, "This member of the Tartan Army will not be traveling to Boston, which breaks my heart. However, too risky." And that broke my heart too, because that someone who loves soccer, who has probably been to World Cups all over the world, who has traveled to dozens of countries, and they re-saying America in 2025 is too dangerous. That where we are. That what we've become. In 50 days. So what do? Because I can just lay out this nightmare and not talk about what happens next. I am going to give you multiple levels of action because I know not everyone can do everything, but everyone can do something. If you can protest, Protest. There are demonstrations happening in Jacksonville, in Minneapolis, in cities across America. Join them. Make your voice heard. Show that this isn't what Americans want, that this isn't who we are. If you can protest, call your representatives. Demand they investigate ICE. Demand accountability for the deaths of Renee Good and Pretti. Demand oversight. Demand answers. The number is on your screen. Make the call. If you re in a city with an ICE cooperation agreement, demand your mayor terminate it. These are called 287G agreements. They allow local police to work with ICE. Cities can end them. Jacksonville is considering it. Minneapolis should be next. Your city could be next. Make it happen. If you replanning to attend the World Cup, reconsider. I know that's hard. I know people have spent money, made plans, but every empty seat, every canceled ticket, every international fan who decides it's too risky, that sends a message, that applies pressure, that forces change. And if you can do nothing else, share this, talk about it. Dawn to let this become normal. Dawn to let the outrage fade. Dawn to let the deaths of American citizens get memory hold. Dawn to let ICE operating like a militia become just another thing we accept. Because here's what I know. Here's what I'm convinced of. This is a test. This is Trump testing how far he can push, testing what he can get away with, testing whether anyone will stop him. And if no one does, if we just accept this, if the world just watches and does nothing, it will get worse. It always gets worse. I'm going to end with something personal because I think it matters. I think it shows I am not just talking. I am not just making content. I am genuinely scared, and I am genuinely committed to fighting this, I believe. And maybe I am naive, but I believe America can be better than this. I believe we can be the country that respects sovereignty, that values human rights, that treats allies like allies and immigrants like human beings. I believe the ideals we claim to stand for, they are worth fighting for, even when, especially when, we are failing to live up to them. But that belief, that hope, it requires action. It requires resistance. It requires people saying no, this far, no further. Italy said no. Germany said no. Ecuador said no. Law enforcement in Minneapolis said no. And we need to say no, loudly, clearly, consistently, until this stops. Because if we don't, if we just let this become normal, if we accept that this is what America is now, then we've already lost. Not just the fight against Trump, but the fight for what America could be, what it should be, what it must be. The world is watching. Our allies are watching. History is watching. And 50 years from now, 100 years from now, people will ask, what did you do when ICE was killing citizens, when allies were protesting, when America was losing its soul? What will you say? What will your answer be? I know what mine will be. I fought. I resisted. I refused to accept it. I refused to stay silent. I refused to let this become normal. That's my commitment.